just feel like you can't catch a break. You know, when it rains, it pours for our year.
The most frustrating part is not being sure of what we could have been.
Who would have thunk it that the Lakers would not even make the playoffs? A lot of soul searching to take place during the offseason.
Our goal was to win the championship.
We didn't get it done. You can't make no excuses about it.
Far from the gold standard of the purple and gold, that's how the Lakers season ended. But we're looking ahead as ESPN NBA front office insider Bobby Marks joins us now. Bobby, since free agency has opened, it has been eerily quiet in LA. This is the chess, not checkers portion of the NBA season. So play grandmaster for us. What is going on in LA's front office?
Well, we knew it was going to be relatively quiet because basically they had the taxpayer mid-level exception that they spent on a player like Lonnie Walker. And then they did a little bit of free agent shopping, certainly here. Damian Jones, Juan Toscano-Anderson, players signed to the veteran minimum exception here. Now, the big question is, how does this roster take that next step? And I think it starts certainly with what's the future of Russell Westbrook? $47 million last year of his contract. If you're just going to get rid of Westbrook, a team like San Antonio that has cap space maybe to absorb him, it's going to cost you. First round picks. The wild card, what Laker fans would love, is Kyrie Irving. But Brooklyn's not doing an Irving for Westbrook swap. For one thing, it would cost the Nets about $70 million in additional tax penalty. And the second thing is, younger, all-star, fits better here. So to incentivize him, likely 2 first-round picks here. And it's going to be up to the Lakers if they want to do that type of deal.
So if that top of the wish list item isn't available to them, what are the machinations that they can still improve this roster? Because, again, the gold standard is championships. That's what LeBron wants, is rings. How do they take another step toward that if that ideal doesn't work out?
Well, they still have the veteran minimum exception to go out and spend. You also have players like Talen Horton-Tucker that you can potentially put in a deal. Kendrick Nunn, $15 million gets you back about a $20 million player. Maybe a player like Eric Gordon is out there, but everything is going to cost you draft compensation. And I think when you have LeBron, and he's certainly in the last year of his contract, remember he's extension eligible in August. 2027 and 2029 first-round picks don't mean anything. So you have to do everything right now to put a championship roster around him.
Very compelling point of the year, and it's one of those things where you just can't go to sleep. Remember, the Paul George, Kawhi Leonard thing came about, 3 in the morning Eastern Conference time. Bobby, we thank you for always being on the clock and being here with us on SportsCenter.
Thank you.
New option, he is Brooklyn. It's been 3 seasons for the Nets. I really like that, actually. Since Kyrie and KD joined the team, Brooklyn 13th in the league in win percentage. Durant didn't play in the 2019-2020 season, recovering from that torn Achilles. The Nets have a 7-13 playoff record over the last 3 seasons and were swept in the first round against the Celtics this past season. Furthest they've gone is the conference semis in the 2021 playoffs. And the 2 stars just haven't been on the court that often since they signed with the Nets. Kyrie and KD both played in 58 games over the last 3 seasons, including the playoffs. So here's how the Nets roster looks for next season with Kyrie back in the fold. Along with Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons, other notable players under contract include Joe Harris and Seth Curry. They can re-sign their own free agents with Bruce Brown, Patty Mills, and Nick Claxton at the top of the list. And here with us to talk about it is our NBA front office insider, Bobby Marks. So the Nets were swept in the first round of the playoffs. What can Brooklyn do this offseason to be a contender in the East and build around KD and Kyrie?
Well, here's their starting lineup. And when you, on paper right now, I mean, you can roll this out with any team in the NBA. Of course, there's a lot of ifs, certainly with Ben Simmons here. But when you look at what they have in the offseason, we looked at their free agents, okay? 8 open roster spots. There is a lot of work to do for Sean Marks, their general manager here. They have their own free agents, Bruce Brown, Nick Claxton. They can re-sign him. We're still waiting on the option date for Patty Mills, which is on Wednesday if he's going to opt into his contract. So these 3 certainly are the priority. After that, it's the $6.5 million tax mid-level exception, the veteran minimum. My big question is, how much is ownership willing to spend for a team that just got swept in the playoffs by the Celtics? They can go out and acquire a player, but that number potentially can cost you an additional $50, $60 million in salary. And then those two future firsts that you got in the James Harden trade that you can maybe go out and use in a trade. But there's work to do in Brooklyn. These are your two bench players right now.
All right. Vegas likes the fact that Kyrie's back. With Kyrie opting in, the Nets moved from plus 900 to win the championship to plus 750. So we'll water. What Caesar says. We'll keep seeing what Caesar says. Let's talk about the Lakers, because they were on Kyrie's list of potential destinations. Since it doesn't look like that's going to happen, and now Russell Westbrook has opted into his contract, what does LA have to do with that roster to build around Russ, LeBron, and AD?
Well, if you're a Laker fan, you're probably looking at us and you're saying, is this 2021 or is this 2022? And this is where their roster is right now. Certainly with Russell Westbrook opting in, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, but Austin Reeves, Stanley Johnson, 3 players on their contract. They have a lot of work to do. Certainly when you look at what their options are going to be. When you have 3 players that make $132 million between Westbrook, AD, and LeBron, that puts you over the luxury tax. It's going to be bargain shopping in free agency here. That $6.5 million tax mid-level, is it going to be for a player like Malik Monk? Will he come for a discount? You have the veteran exception here, what they did last year when they signed Carmelo Anthony and players like that. Here's the big question. When we get to August 4th, will LeBron sign for that extension? 2 years, $97 million. And then those draft picks, 2027, 28, and 29 that they potentially could use in a trade. But this team has a lot of work
going on between Brooklyn, teams around the league. You know, 2 of the teams that Kevin Durant would like to play with, the Phoenix Suns, the Miami Heat. You know, they've both been in pretty consistent contact with Brooklyn, I'm told. But I think both teams individually may not have enough to do a deal with Brooklyn without being able to go out and move some pieces around in 3-player, 4-player trades. And I think for Brooklyn, and I think they're even more determined after they see the Rudy Gobert trade, the DeJounte Murray trade, the number of picks and assets moving, 5 first-round picks essentially for Rudy Gobert. What's Kevin Durant worth? And I think not just the picks, and I think Brooklyn is going to try to exhaust 4 or 5 first-round picks, 4 pick swaps in it, but also at least an all-star level player. And certainly that you look it out and who's available, how they get those deals done. They're going to be they're generally going to be complex deals. They're going to take time putting together. But Brooklyn knows they've got time on their side now, not just the offseason, but Kevin Durant's got 4 years left on his contract. I think Brooklyn will continue to try to talk throughout the league and get what they know has to be a monumental deal if they're going to trade Kevin Durant.
It's an unbelievable crossroads here for general manager Sean Marks. Kevin Durant, to Woj's point, stunned the NBA world July 4th, 2016 when he agreed to join the Warriors. And as we come upon July 4th this summer, we'll wait to see what KD does. Woj, thank you very much. Subin. He finally did break his silence, tweeting, "The ones who were locked in that gym with me know what it is. They know what I'm about. If you haven't been in there with me, ask around."
Officially licensed everything.
Zubin back with you on Sports Center. Thank you for spending part of your Saturday with us. Speaking of spending, Darius Garland has cashed in the richest deal in Cavs franchise history, a rookie max extension, 5 years, $193 million. Garland was an all-star last year, his 3rd season, one in which he averaged over 21 points and 8 assists per game. The deal's worth up to $231 million with All-NBA.
This is a Shaquille O'Neal type force of nature with a point guard skill set.
He's the most unique player on the planet.
I am who I am, Zion.
He is a 1 of 1. Now the pertinent numbers for Zion, 5 for 193. That's years for $1 million, up to 231 potentially. Zion Williamson's rookie max extension is the latest chapter of an NBA career with extreme ups and downs in the Big Easy. 2019's top pick to the Pelicans as they moved on from a drawn-out Anthony Davis saga. Zion was worth the wait in NOLA, made his debut 3 months after tearing his meniscus in the preseason. Flashes were there. 22 points on the debut, 17 in the 4th quarter alone. Went on court, Zion's been spectacular, all-star starter in just his second season, just the third player ever to average 25 points on 60% shooting, joining Kevin McHale and Charles Barkley. But the lows are in Zion's absence, missing last season with a foot injury and rehab. He's played just 85 games in 3.
A player does have a little bit of a say-so because the team doesn't want to give up pretty much probably their future when you think about the asking price being a young all-star or a young all-star caliber player and then a bunch of picks. You don't want to give up your franchise if a player like Kevin Durant doesn't want to be there. I think you might be even seeing 2, maybe 3 teams get involved, mixing pieces and making sure that the Nets get what they want and Kevin Durant can end up in a positive situation that he wants to be in.
Whatever he does decide, it'd be great if it happened like soon so we can all just enjoy our 4th of Julys, right?
Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. This is going to be too complicated. Okay. But, you know, we wish everybody the best.
Yes, a happy 4th of July to everybody and you too. Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you, Ash.
Celtics did some things that'll have their fan base celebrating with some Sam Adams. They are the title favorites, according to many, after picking up Malcolm Brogdon from Indiana. Cost them 5 players and a first-round pick. None of the players are regular rotation guys. Brogdon is a playmaker whose biggest problem is staying healthy. All right, we got more trading places. John Wall officially agrees to a 2-year deal with the Clippers. The 5-time All-Star didn't play last season. Houston chose to sit him and pay him when he's right. He is really good. Kevin Huerter goes from the Hawks to the Kings. He tweeted that it was his welcome to the NBA moment. Atlanta got 2 players and a future first. Red Velvet can really shoot the 3. The Warriors will regret letting Gary Payton leave. That was a Bay Area headline. Payton to Portland. He's a lockdown defender. Plus, he went to Oregon State. So Rip City will embrace him. Warriors replacing that ring with the one Dante DiVincenzo won when he was with the Bucks. He, too, can defend, runs the floor, and can shoot it a bit. Plus, he's got Steph Curry as a teammate. All right, as for players staying put, Zach LaVine remains in Chicago, 5 years, $215 million max. Yusuf Nurkic and Mitchell Robinson get 4-year deals to stay in Portland and New York, respectively. Go Nurk. And 2022 champion
Kevin Durant has requested a trade from the Brooklyn Nets, sources told Yahoo Sports' Chris Haynes. Per Haynes, Durant listed the Phoenix Suns as a preferred destination. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski reports that the Miami Heat are also on Durant's wish list, but that the Nets intend to trade Durant wherever they can get the best deal. Durant enters next season on the first year of a 4-year, $194 million extension. He's under contract through the 2025-26 season. A 12-time All-Star, Durant joined the Nets in 2019 alongside Kyrie Irving as Brooklyn set its sights on winning an NBA championship. The Nets were swept in the first round of the playoffs last season by the Boston Celtics after a tumultuous regular season. Brooklyn traded fellow All-Star James Harden mid-season for Ben Simmons from the Philadelphia 76ers. Simmons has yet to play a game for the Nets. Meanwhile, All-Star guard Kyrie Irving was a part-time player during the regular season after he refused to comply with a New York City COVID-19 vaccine regulation. Irving's future with the franchise has lingered over the offseason as he and the team reportedly reached an impasse. General manager Sean Marks said at the conclusion of Brooklyn's season that he wants players who can be available. Irving played 29 games during the regular season last year. Despite the reported impasse, Irving reportedly opted into his $36.9 million player option earlier this week. The transaction leaves open the possibility of a trade as the two sides have not agreed on a long-term deal. Durant and Irving joined the Nets together 3 seasons ago as a package deal. Now it appears that Durant is ready to move on. This NBA bombshell comes just hours before free agency opens Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time and opens more possibilities for a team to make a major move for Durant, which could yield a significant return on assets for Nets. The Nets have been in a state of upheaval even since the 2021-22 season began and Kyrie Irving declined to get the COVID-19 vaccine and played in just 29 regular season games. Brooklyn also sent James Harden to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons at the trade deadline, then was swept by Boston in the first round of the playoffs. According to Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report, 2 teams have been mentioned most frequently as KD's preferred landing spots. Those two teams are the Phoenix Suns and the Miami Heat. Both teams are coming off division titles and deep playoff runs. They've both been to the NBA Finals in the past 3 seasons. More importantly, the two teams have the assets to pull off a trade for Durant. They have young players, veteran players, and first-round picks that the Nets would probably be happy to take off their hands. Those two teams will probably be among the betting favorites once odds are finally released. As for the Kevin Durant trade request itself, it would mark the end of a wildly failed attempt by the Nets to create a super team on par with the Miami Heat's Big Three from 2010 to 2014. In 3 years in Brooklyn, Durant played just 90 games. His lasting legacy in Brooklyn will be getting swept by the Boston Celtics in the first round of the 2022 NBA playoffs. Meanwhile, the Nets still have point guard Kyrie Irving. But if Durant is gone, there's not